Hey everybody, welcome back to Dave and Will's Guitar. So today I've got a coworker's Made Mexico Strat. So we've got a lot of things to do to this guitar. If you've ever bought a Mexican Strat or some of the more affordable intermediate guitars, you'll know that if you get them set up, there's quite a bit of work to do. It's not particularly hard work, but there's a lot of things to consider. And I kind of like to go a little bit above and beyond, kind of make it a little nicer. Things that are like not necessarily part of a setup, but a little further that extend past a setup to really get it in like an awesome playing condition. So I've taken notes, so it's going to be a lot. I don't even know if it'll all fit in one video because it's going to be so much work, but that's okay. I mean, like I said, it's not hard. It's just going through all the stuff. So I'll try to move from one side of the guitar to the other side. Some of these things might have to jump around depending on like where I am in the guitar setup process, but things I've identified already, the things that I either need to check or things that I haven't checked yet that need to be worked on, I'll go ahead and list those now. So starting from the top of the headstock, we need to tighten the tuners. Most of the time when you get a brand new guitar that's never been set up or has had a lot of time being unplayed, whatever the situation is, you always want to check to make sure the nut and the screws are tight on the tuners. So I can tell that on the bottom they're tight, so they're not wobbly. I don't hear any rattling, but I have a feeling these nuts might need to be tightened. We'll check the string slot height. So moving on to this nut, we're going to check to make sure that these are falling within the proper distance from the fret, from the string to the fret, from where it's cut at the nut. Then if I need to widen or adjust the gap to make sure the string pull through isn't binding. I already know that it's binding because I've tested it. The G string especially is binding. Most of the other ones are okay, but just creating a nice groove for that string to sit in, so when you use the trem arm, it doesn't go out of tune. And then also we'll lubricate the nut. That is something we'll need to do. The person who gave me this guitar asked me to change the strings, so we'll be doing that as well. Of course, I'll need to check the neck relief, make sure that that's set properly, and then I need to check the fret level, so I need to make sure the neck is straight. So we'll set the neck straight first, then check for fret level, polish the frets because they are gritty. So if you do bends on these, you can kind of feel the frets. Doesn't take much, that's an easy fix. I told him I could roll the fretboard edges. These edges are almost like, some of them are better than others, but it could use a light rolling. It already is, well, some of these edges are a little harder than others. Like up here, like that feels okay. Anyway, they all need to be looked at. So I'll do like a small pass on those fretboard edges and roll those into a nice plain played-in feeling condition. And then there is some fret sprout, so notice that. We'll have to take care of that. The frets are sprouting, well, on the edge you can feel where the frets are starting to kind of protrude. Typical thing if you change climates. I know this person is, I believe, from Texas, if I'm not mistaken. I say I know this, I don't, but I'm almost positive he's from Texas. I think you mentioned that. And of course now we're in a different part of the country in Virginia, and the weather's very different. So obviously wood expands, contracts depending on humidity, things like that. So these frets have sprouted, we'll fix that. The pickguard cover still has a plastic on it, so we will go ahead and remove that plastic. And then with these bent steel saddles that you see on Strats that are typical, you'll know that the saddle screws tend to protrude, and because these saddles are bent steel, which is typical on a Strat, if you rest your hand on the bridge, you don't want to feel those. Now, the bridge is properly set where those saddle screws are not protruding, but the bridge is not floated properly. So I have to raise where the bridge is screwed into the body. It just needs to come up about, I don't know, maybe like 1/8 of an inch, if that, and that'll increase the saddle height. I'll have to lower the saddles, and then those screws will protrude, so we might change out those screws if I need to. And then I will float the bridge. We'll check the output jack nut to make sure that that's good. And then, of course, where the trem arm fits in the tremolo, we're gonna put a little lithium grease in there. That'll help the longevity of that trem arm if it's used. Make sure that it's not steel on steel rubbing. You know, over time, if you're using that, it can wear out and wear in. So just a little tiny bit of lithium grease will help make sure that that stays pristine over its use. So those are the things. I know it's a lot, but I've got all my tools out. So the tools we're gonna use: white lithium grease. I'm also gonna clean the guitar. which I didn't list, but I should have. So we've got our guitar polish and cleaner. It's really not that dirty, won't take long. Fretboard polish and cleaner. Fretboard oil to condition it after it's done. I've got a string winder, a fret rocker, the fret kisser in case I need to spot level frets, a razor blade so I can roll the fret edges, fret protectors so when I do polish and level, if I do polish or level those frets, I want to make sure that those are okay and they're not, I'm not rubbing against the fretboard or taking any material I don't need to. I've got my relief action gauge, string height, nut measurement tool, all my nut files. I have my fret end dressing file, a pocket file in case I need it, probably won't, nut lube, and of course paper towels to clean it, and a sock to check the fret edge to make sure it's nice and smooth. So tons of tools. Oh, and of course an Allen wrench to adjust the truss rod there. So quite a bit to do. Oh, and saddle screws. So they're in a plastic bag. They're very tiny. I'm not going to pull those out and show you, but the screws, if we need to replace them, I have shorter ones just in case. We need to pull the taller ones out so they, rest properly and they can, sit in there without protruding and poking your hand. So, yeah, ton of stuff. That was a lot, guys, but we will get into it. So I might cut and stop this video during certain portions just to show what's going on. So I'm gonna just quickly, this is just for testing. This is a nice little stocking here, and we're gonna rub it on the fret edges. And yeah, I can already feel it kind of grabbing. Yeah. So there's a little bit of running here, not a whole lot. This is a pretty thick stocking, so it doesn't grab too bad, but it has caused a few runs in there, and that stocking, yeah, it's already starting to pill, and there's some running there. So just a little bit. That is probably, if you're a Philip McKnight person, I don't know what he'd say. It needs to be done. I wouldn't give it a star. Is it horrible? No, it's like a 3.5, a 4 out of 5, somewhere around there. And then here, rub it on here. This actually doesn't feel too bad. The bridge is better than I expected, so nothing really too bad there. It's really just these fret ends that need to be taken care of. So, where to even start? Yeah, I guess we should measure the nut slot before I get these strings off. So, guitar's in pitch and tune. Oh, I need to go get other tools. Look what I'm doing, already getting up. So, I've got my string action gauge here to measure that as well, a pick and a tuner, so we'll have to tune it, and then of course a saddle adjustment screw, or a saddle adjustment Allen wrench. Okay, so we determined the frets do need filing, but we'll just take some quick measurements here first to look at all this stuff. Yeah, so let's get this looked at. So the E string is actually kind of low already. It doesn't look like we'll need to adjust that, which is nice. All right, next string. That's a little high, but yeah, that could come down a hair. Actually, it's not bad enough to where I need to change it or do anything to it. That D string is a little high. Yeah, I might file that just a hair. Yeah, 20 and 30. So the D string and the G string need to be, so the D string was at 28 and the G string is at 30. Let's just measure that again to make sure that I'm not going crazy. Oh, that's D string's at 27. I'm sorry, G string's at 27. I was off. I mean, it can vary a little bit by the pressure on the gauge here. It's very easy to get like multiple readings. Yeah, and it's the D string that's at 30, so I had them reversed. That's why you measure twice, folks. All right. And then we'll measure, flip this around and do the B and the E string here. that's a tad high. Actually, let me get that locked in. That was kind of not sitting properly. Yeah, that's a tad high at 23. And that's at 21, so 23, 21. G, B, E, 23, 21. So I'm just going to take a little bit of material off of that, so they're in a bit better spot. The E string was actually low. This is at like, this was measuring around like 17, needs to be 20. So the fact that it's low is not a problem. It's when it buzzes that it's a problem. And then the A string was at like 25. It should be closer to 20. I might take a little bit off. I'm gonna like kind of groove those strings anyway to kind of like let the string fit better in there so it doesn't bind. So I'm gonna take off a little material doing that. And that'll probably give me that like 1/1000th of an inch to kind of get that string in the slot a little bit better. So we'll do that. And yeah, so other things we want to measure. So first, I haven't even measured the neck relief, so we'll see where we're at starting. So we're at 10/1000ths of an inch. It's pretty standard for a Fender, about 9/1000ths. So that's good. Neck relief is fine. I am gonna straighten it out just so we can have it set up in a place where it's flat, and it'll need to be flat. So when I level the frets, if they need to be leveled. So yeah, we can use this fret rocker, and we'll see if we have any rocking. So far, nothing. Oh, little rock there. Little Rock, Arkansas. A little bit there, none there, none there, none there, a little bit there. So yeah, there's some frets that are gonna, I'm just gonna take the fret kisser and you know, use it on all of them, and then hopefully that'll take it to a spot where they need to be. So, what do I want to tackle first? Do string height. Let's see what the action is. I haven't even measured the action. So, yep, 4 and 4. Wow. Okay, so we are right at 4/64ths of an inch on both sides, which is very standard for a Fender. So that is like Fender standard factory specs, which is nice. So I think what I should do is probably do the filing first of those strings. So unfortunately, I don't have a trim for this because it was not included when I was given the guitar. So we will we'll hopefully fix it. I can't check though, so it makes it a little tough. But I can widen the slots just a bit. I can kind of push on the strings back and forth here. Like if you, basically the way to check is you tune a string, and then you just give it a little tap behind the nut, and if it binds, like if it changes the pitch drastically, then I know it's binding, right? So I should be able to just tap it, and it should be pulled back into place after I let go. And if I give it, you know, just a little bit of elbow grease, and really I've already done this a little bit, so I tested. I know the G string needs to be done, but I'll test all of them. So let's go ahead and do the nut first. So let's see, it was the D string. So we will go ahead and release tension on this D string, just a touch. And yeah, we should be okay. So there we go. So the D string, I don't like doing it in this order necessarily. In fact, I'm gonna move my E string and A string apart so they don't get in the way. And this was 30/1000ths high. So again, I put them in order of the way I use them, so I don't put the wrong, oh, look, I took off the D string. I took off the G string, not even the D string. Look at that, already messing up, man. Let's do it in order. All right, so we will tune this back to pitch. Tuners feel good. There's no slipping or anything, so those are nice. I've noticed that in Fender, they generally give pretty, even on their Mexican Made variants, they're not terribly problematic or anything. So Is it the highest quality tuner I've ever used? No, but they are good quality, and I would feel, if I had them on any guitar I was playing, I would not be upset at all. Okay, so the D string. D string was a little high, so we're just going to take off a little bit of material, and I'm just going to wiggle this around a little bit and try to widen that slot, because it needs to be widened. So okay, so hopefully that should do it, just a hair. And I'm actually gonna kind of angle it and do the edge here. And I'm gonna do this edge. So I'm just doing like where the string would enter the nut, I'm just like pulling at the sides of it to kind of, so imagine you have your nut, right? And at the ends, I want it to fan out. So the string is not, like if the string's coming in and it's touching one side or the other, I want it to be at an edge so it kind of rounds over and comes in at an angle so it's not crabbing the nut on either side. So it's kind of tedious. So yeah, we don't need a whole lot. And just a little bit on the edges. I mean, so yeah, that should be fine. Okay, so I didn't really, I mean, I put some passes on there, but I didn't really push too hard, so I just want to get a little bit in there and see where we're at. And I think it's gonna still be a little too high, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. Don't want to do this twice, right? We had quite a bit of room to go. Yeah, I didn't really take off anything. Yeah, so it's still, I took off like 2/1000ths of an inch. So it's a 28, and this should be at 18. So we can go 10. If we get within 4, we're gonna stop. So that's as far as we're gonna go. And he plays 9s, so even though I'm filing this for 10s, it's like 2/1000ths of an inch bigger, which is just gonna be enough. So that means is I don't have to rock this back and forth to get the appropriate height. So I can just kind of file straight down, and it should give me plenty of room to work with. So I noticed some material came out, so I'm going to check again, because I did pull some material out. And it's very easy to overdo it, so we don't want to go too far. As soon as I start seeing material, I stop, generally. Yeah, and I feel like that's a little lower, but still probably a little high. And again, we're gonna stop if it's a little high, it's not a problem. Yeah, so again, like I took like 1.5/1000ths of an inch. Not too much there. Okay, so again, it's a lot of checking. Okay, so we're gonna take a little bit more off, and we're gonna check again. Yeah, generally if you use a nut file for the exact appropriate string, you wiggle it back and forth to kind of help that groove fit a little bit. It needs to be a little wider than what the file is. And of course, because he plays 9-gauge strings, I don't really have to move it back and forth. And that is nice. Yeah, took another 1/1000th of an inch. So again, it's better to be safe than sorry. Always better to be safe than sorry. You can always remove material. You cannot add it back. So I'm just kind of putting the edge of the file in there to kind of pull out any material that's already been sanded. I don't want any dust in there because even the dust will add height. Okay, so I feel like I'm just making sure it's clean. So the first couple passes, I put a little more pressure, and then on the last couple, I just release the pressure. I'm not putting as much because I want to make sure that I'm pulling the dust out. That's what I'm trying to do. Pulling, like, you know, nut material so it's not sitting in there when I measure it, because then it'll misread. And how do I know I've done that? How do I know that that's the case? Because I've ruined a bunch of nuts doing it before. Yeah, so we're just still a little high. I want to bring this down probably another 2 to 3 thousandths. It is like catching the file. Okay, I feel like now it's kind of, the file is fitting properly in there. So that should be just enough. Again, can always remove, can't add. Okay, let's check again. So that is feeling much better. Yeah, another 2 thousandths. I need like 1 to 2 thousandths, and we will be good. I still have, you know, even if I overshoot it by 4 thousandths, it's still within spec. Like, that would be perfect. But again, I always err on the side of caution. So I'm just gonna pull the material out. Okay, I feel like that is going to be pretty good. It's still a little high, but I always err on the side of caution. I say that, and it's like, it's just annoying me because it's just still a little too high. So I want to go a little deeper. Yeah, that's probably it. Okay. Where are we at? Yep, okay. So we're within 4 thousandths. I'm at 22. So 22 thousandths should be 18. It's still a little high, but 4 thousandths of an inch is not a big enough deal. I've got so much work to do, but I took it from 30 to 22. So because of that, it's like, we're just gonna stop and move on. So, so yeah, we are good to go there. Again, you know, Fender sent this out 30 thousandths. That is like the extreme maximum for what you'd probably want. And yeah. So the next is the G string. And again, I'm just gonna measure it. I measured it at 27 thousandths of an inch and it needs to be 18. So we're just gonna check it. Yeah, still 27 thousandths. Always check a bunch. So as you know, once I use a file and I don't need it anymore, I move it to the side because I don't want to accidentally grab it. So time to do the G string. Yeah. Okay. So I know this one was binding already. So what I'm going to do, just to be sure, is I'm going to try to get the edges edged out so I, you know, kind of widen that gap. And it's hard to do. It's not easy because you have to kind of put the file at a funky angle to get it there, and I don't want it to run into the fretboard. So, yeah. So waiting, slide out, please, waiting, and doing that on the other side. Yeah. So we did get some material out. I'm just going to check it again. Yeah, we're much closer now, which is good. Yeah, we came down about 3/1000ths of an inch. Most tedious work on the planet. This is actually probably the most nerve-wracking because you can't reverse it, like I said. So, and also these nut files are going to give a little more room because like I said, they're 1 gauge bigger, so they're going to be perfect for this string size. Okay, so there we go. And where are we now? Yeah, okay, so we're within 3/1000ths of an inch. So perfect, so we're gonna leave it there. That's really good. Even if I've left a little residue in there, if I were to pull it out, which when I change the strings, I'll do that. It's not gonna be enough residue to pull it up 3/1000ths of an inch. It might be like 0.5 or 1/1000. So even if I was leaving residue in there, it's still high enough where it's not gonna be a problem. Okay, so I think I might only do the B string. The E string is only out 4/1000ths, roughly-ish, like 4 to 5. But that is very playable because it is so close. So I'm just gonna measure because I wanna be absolutely positive. I always measure a bunch. I'm gonna tell you, you think I'm like being super careful and maybe overzealous about it, but you don't wanna be wrong. Yeah, that is 23. Okay, so like I said, I've got my fret here, or my file here. I'm gonna move this to the side. Don't need to use that. And just gonna go ahead and do the B string here. Yep, I got the right file. Just always double check. Okay. So again, the only file or the only string that was really grabbing was the G string when I noticed for the trem, but I can't know without a trem. But we've widened that slot a little bit, so it should be good to go. I need to loosen this because I want to put it back on the string tree. Okay, so where are we at? So yeah, now we're at 21. So we brought it about 0.02 of an inch down. It's close enough to be within about 4 to 5/1000ths. I really like to be at 4, but that is fine. I mean, it's much better than what it was. But as this guitar gets played, those will wear out and it will wear down. So as soon as it starts to wear down, it's going to be it's already in a much more comfortable spot. I can feel the strings as they approach the fret, and they're much closer. So I think we're in good shape. I mean, I could go farther, but like I said, I tend to err on the side of caution, and I'm taking it from an extreme height to a much closer height. I happen to be doing this one for more or less free. So, if it was someone paying for like a very exact proper measurement, I would try to get much closer. But I find this playable myself when I do my own guitars. 4 to 5/1000ths is fine. Really, I like about closer to 4. There's ones that are like quote 5, but again, when you measure it, like you breathe on this device, it's so sensitive. You can over or underestimate by 1 or 2/1000ths of an inch very easily. So that's done. Yeah, moving on. Okay, so let's see. Do I want to do anything while I have the strings on? So we checked the neck relief. Neck relief was at 9/1000ths. I need to write that down. 9 thousandths. So I will put it back at 9 thousandths because I feel like that, I mean, that's a standard Fender spec. There, 9 to 12 is where Fender says you should be. So I checked the frets, they're not level, I need to polish them, roll the fretboard edge. So we could roll the fretboard edge now. So let's go ahead and do that. I can do that while the strings are on. So the next thing to do here would be, you know, I could use string spreaders, but I can actually scrape these strings because it doesn't matter because they're going to get replaced. Well, let's see. If I hit my 45-degree angle, is it going to hit the string? It is. I do need my string spreaders. I lied, folks. Yeah, so I guess if I do the string spreaders, I can do a lot more work too, because I can do the frets. Well, I need to flatten it out first. Yeah, let's just do that first. Okay, so I don't think there's anything else that requires me to keep the strings in tune, so I can release these strings. So I do have my string winder here. I can kind of... So if you're going to loosen strings, I always recommend loosening the high E string and going that direction, simply because if you start the other direction, you're going to put a whole lot of tension on that string. So we don't want it to break. A lot of people will say you should, you know, you could put the new strings on. I tend to do that last. All I need is the tension from the strings. I don't need them to do anything other than hold tension. What it's like in, excuse me, in playing position, because once it's in playing position, regardless of what strings I have on, they're all going to have the same amount, more or less the same amount of tension to hold the note at the right pitch and frequency. So it doesn't matter if they're old or new in that regard. That's not going to change anything. So, plus I don't want to, like, I'm going to be doing work and I don't want to like run something into a string and like graze it or ruin it or what have you. So yeah, these can be loosened a little bit more. Okay, so I know when I originally measured it at 9 thousandths, what that means is it should go, whatever I read now, I'm going to move it that amount and move that same amount the other direction when I need to put new strings on it and return it to its position. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. And get this one on here. Okay, so fretboard edge is next. It's very easy to do. I'm going to move this down here. So I'm just going to take it and I'm going to scrape at a 45-degree angle, and then I'm going to kind of, well, let's see. Yeah, it'll be at a 45-degree angle to this board, and then we'll split the difference and do each side. I'll tilt it a little bit down, tilt it a little bit up, and kind of help round that out. So here's my 45-degree angle. I'm just gently grazing this edge, and then I'm going to tilt it closer to the other side of the fretboard and then tilt it back a little bit. And really that's all you need. So I'm not adding, oh, like that already feels so much better. So, and again, I'm not applying a whole lot of pressure. I would say, if I had to guess, maybe like somewhere between, like, if I was pushing on a scale, maybe 3 pounds of pressure. Really not a whole lot. But this will make the guitar feel much more played in when you grab it. So it's one of my favorite things to do, because it's something you'll notice very quickly when you get a guitar that's like had a rolled edge. You know, a lot of premium guitars, they will make it, they do that automatically, right? That's a new thing that everyone's doing nowadays. And again, I'm only doing 3 passes and I'm not pressing too hard. So 3 passes is more than enough. And so, yeah, I didn't get the bottom edge very well, so I'm going to do it again. And because I'm doing it again, I'm applying even less pressure. But, you know, it's one of those things, when you do it enough, you kind of get a feel for it. And, you know, a lot of people, some people will roll it really hard. Like if you play a Sire guitar, when they talk about a fretboard edge being rolled, it is like super duper rolled. Like I have one and it's almost at a point where I don't even like it because it is so rolled. It feels like your hand's gonna kind of slip off. I give it a nice gentle roll, and that's all you need. Like that really, I find that's plenty good. So no need to like overdo it. We just want to take that hard edge off. And, you know, depending when you bought your Fender, it could be, you know, more or less rolled. I know more companies are doing it. I don't know if Fender does it on the Made in Mexico series. They probably don't. It doesn't take long, but, you know, it's something that feels much better when you do it. And, oh, another thing to note, you cannot do this on a maple fretboard. So, well, I shouldn't say that. Anything with a finished fretboard, you cannot do this. You can do this on, this is a laurel, I can tell. Looks like Indian laurel to me. It might not be Indian laurel. It's got some streaking in it that makes me think it could be something different, but this is open grain. It's not finished, so I can do this because I'm not gonna rub. I'm not pulling finish off of it. If there was finish on the edge, it would feel really terrible. Like it'd feel weird, it would look weird. You can do this on, you know, ebony, rosewood, those kind of fretboards. But if your fretboard has finish on it, if you touch it and it feels like the body or anything else that's finished, or the back of the neck, then you know that you can't do that. So always, I don't think I've said that in other videos, so, but I've always done fretboards of that kind. I haven't, of course, haven't done this on a maple fretboard. And now that I'm getting closer to the body, because his hand's not going to wrap around these, I don't need to do these because your fingers are never going to touch them from this side of the fretboard. So now I can do the other side. So, okay, so we're good. All right, so you can see I got dust everywhere now. So I like to use about 1800 here. Here's my 1800 pad, and I'm just going to give it a quick rub down. And again, this is so fine that it's really not taking material off. I'm just sanding it smooth. And it doesn't really need a whole lot. We just wanna get that edge nice and rounded over. And also it's helping with the frets that need to be the fret sprout here. So yeah, we're getting like a 2-for-1 deal here. Even though this is probably not as aggressive as it needs to be for the frets, the fret ends, and in fact, I have a bevel file that I might consider using, but I probably won't. Okay, so I can already feel that helped a little bit, just a very little bit, but yeah. Okay, so we're done. The frets are rolled over, so I should be marking these down. So check the nut slot height. I checked the binding. I did not lube the neck, so that'll happen afterward. We checked the neck relief. We rolled the fret edge. Okay, let's fix the fret sprout. That's the next easiest thing to do. So if you have a fret in dressing file, basically it's flat on one edge and rounded. It's got like a smooth, like imagine a U shape. And what you do is you take that U shape, that rounded edge, and you put it on the edge of the fret and you roll it into the fret. So like imagine this is the fret, I'm rolling it up and over like the fret like that. And what that's gonna do, and I'm gonna do each side, that's gonna pull that harsh edge off. So you really don't need a whole lot of passes, just a little bit. And it's very easy to do. And let me see. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's already feeling much better. So yeah, I'll just keep doing it. So, I'll do the side. Yeah, I might need to do this one a little bit. There's like a little, okay, just like a little bit of wood that needed to be filed down. It wasn't completely smooth. Perfect, okay. So just keep going. So yeah, just one at a time. And you don't really, like I said, I'm only doing a few passes over this, like just like 2 passes on each side, and I'm maybe using like an inch of the file to really get it. So yeah, so yeah, there we are. So those are rolled. Okay. Yeah, I didn't have rolled fret edges. Well, I guess rolled fret edges, yeah. Okay, anyway, it's done. Let's check, well, let's get this thing level. So right now we have some relief, but the guitar is detuned, so I can get it back into a straight position. So now I'm going to put this in and, oh, is that going to fit? It should be the correct size. Let me look. This should be 4 millimeters, which is what I believe goes in here. Let's try the American sizes. Maybe Mexico will surprise me and they use American sizes the whole time. Oh, a 3/16, a 3/16 Allen key. Well, I was wrong. It is not metric. Well, there we go. So we need 3/16. This is probably too small. Yep, that's 9/64. What is this? That's 3/16. That's the one we should use. Okay. Well, that could have alleviated a lot of confusion and headache. So I can put all the rest of these back. It must be, and it's like, it's not like grabbing or pushing, so I think I'm kind of in that in-between state where it's really not like moving either direction. Yeah, weird. Okay, so I turned it both directions and it wasn't grabbing, and it turns out the nut, or whatever that wrench part is on the edge, on the end, wasn't like screwed in all the way. And so I was moving it back and forth both directions and I didn't feel anything. Now I feel like we're grabbing, we're moving something. So yeah. Okay. Wow, I got lucky. Okay, we're perfectly straight now. What luck. Yeah. So we are right on the money. Okay, so now we can check for fret level, right? So anyway, the tang of the fret, which is the bottom part of the fret that sits in the fretboard, some of these are also protruding, so I'm gonna see if I feel any of these, and if I do, I'm gonna give them a little rub down. So that's much better. So that one, and you can feel it when you start filing, if you're just hitting the fret. And again, I'm not rubbing the edge of the fret that I just filed, it's the tang. So, and it's not going to take a whole lot. Yeah, that's much better. Okay. Well, that's good. Okay, back to what we're doing. Let's do the fret kisser. So we know the neck is straight. Now I can use this, and if I pull this across, if the fret isn't level, it'll catch. So that fret's level. Fret's level. Oh, not level. So and before I get really going, I get my fret hammer. So I believe, I'm not going to really pull this over, but yeah, there it is. Okay, so we're just going to, just going to see if this was properly seated. And if it is, there we go. Yeah, it just had popped up a little bit. So, just going to be pushing out really quick. So climate humidity changes, we'll do that too. Yeah, a little bit, it? Yeah, no, barely, not really. Okay, so that needs raised. So we'll tap that, and now this. All right. Yep, we're good. So there was some again, if it's not within 4,000. If it's not 4,000, then I'll go back. Okay, so this one's level, and then back in, maybe one little whack. Yeah, there we go. This might be the one. Yeah. So we got just a little high. It's a little touch high here. All right, so that sounded edge that's flat is catching on this fret, and after hammering it down, it still continued to catch, so we gotta level it. Now it's almost done. It feels like it's not as much. Well, it's a little bit there. Okay, so that one is done. So you can see, I go just here. So I can see it's kind of like selective to see one of the instances right here. So I'm going to go ahead and get my crowning file, and we're just going to add a nice crown to it. So we're going to go back over that same fret and add a nice point. So yeah, this is a wide, it's like a jumbo fret. And we're back. It really didn't need a whole lot because I didn't take too much. So, yeah, let's get a nice crown back on that. And I can see the center line here. Now, I could, the proper way to do it is to take a Sharpie and just for the sake of showing someone what it looks like, I'll run the Sharpie on the edge of this fret, and I want to make it nice and fat so it's like all the way down the fret. So what I'm doing there is making sure that the point of this is nice and pointed and sharp, and so as I run this over the fret, it's going to sharpen that line is going to be thinner and thinner because it's bringing it to a point. And not necessarily a point, it's a crown. It's a nice, like, rounded edge near the top. It's not flat in any way. And I can already see that line has narrowed. So that's how you check it. I already know it's good. I mean, I've done this enough to where I feel pretty comfortable knowing when and what it's gonna look like. So I'll go back after that with the polish, and yeah, almost catching there, but not quite. When I polish the frets, all that Sharpie will come off because that's going to be the top of it, and that's going to be the first thing to rub off. And again, yeah, that's almost catching there too, but that looks like it raised a little bit. So just give those two a little tap. Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. Oh, that's not, it's almost touching, not quite. Okay, so really, it wasn't that the frets weren't level, it's that they had raised with humidity. So I hammered them back in. I think they'll be okay. I should, if I had the right super glue, which I don't at the moment, I had that really thin super glue, I could run a bead of super glue underneath, just on the side of the fret, and then scrape the fretboard to clean it up. I'm not going to do that because I don't have the glue. But assuming this guitar is not moving to other weather, I think it'll be fine. So yeah, okay. So now, they were gritty, so moving on, we now can polish the frets. So we checked the fret level. This was actually pretty easy because the fret hammer did a majority of the work, which is, you know, not always the case. Sometimes it doesn't. But now I'm going to take this same 1800 grit micro mesh pad, and I'm just going to rub each fret. And again, this is such a high grit that it's really not moving much of any material at all. It's just going to polish the top of the fret and get it nice and shiny. Now, I might go back over it with a finer grit because I think right around 2000 it starts to feel like pretty glassy, so to speak. And I can bring this back. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that's really all. Very nice after that. So you can see, like, it's not going to hammer real, but the frets are like slightly more low the way I have them polished, and then that polish, that nice beautiful silver color comes out. So really, I'm sorry. It doesn't take much. I'm going to go over it, finer grit. What we're trying to do here is really just remove that top layer of grit. And a lot of frets, you know, they oxidize as they sit in places, especially humid weather will do this to them. So, you know, if you keep them in a wet place and they oxidize, that's where you start to get your frets will start to feel gritty, or they'll, like in some cases, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but guitars will turn green, like the frets will turn a greenish color if they've been oxidized for a while. Okay, so we took off the material we needed. Let's see. Polish the frets, change the strings, we fixed the fret spout. Okay, do we need anything else here? Yeah, that's really, we're moving right along. So the next thing would be, well, we need to put the relief back in the neck. So what I'll do is I'll tune the strings to pitch. Well, I'll wait till we'll do that near the end. So now the strings could come off. So I could have done that before dealing with all the frets, but I just didn't need to. Now the string spreaders kind of do their job. But yeah, I can take these off. Okay, easy peasy. Because I'm gonna have to eventually take this plate off and look at the back of those frets. Take these off. These feel like whoever wound these did a good job. This is a very good wind on these strings. So one thing I said is I had a feeling, because it just happens on all these guitars, that like I could tell when I'm moving these that like the nut on some of these tuners is loose. And when that happens, as you turn the knob, you don't want that tuner to move. It needs to sit and not rock any direction. And when the string is taut, it's really not doing that, but we want to eliminate any area of movement that we can. And I can already tell by taking these strings off, there's a little movement and play in those tuners. So we can just, there's strings, I need to go throw those away, but you know, I'm just gonna do it because it's gonna bother me otherwise. And 6, okay. Got a plate off, move these strings. Okay, strings have been removed. All right, perfect. All right, so luckily the springs, because of their placement, what I was worried about, I can show you, is if you see the springs in here, the springs, there's wood behind the springs. And if I move the block upward, because I need to raise the saddles to make this float correctly, I don't want the springs to rub on that wood. It looks like there's plenty of room, which is nice. So now that we have more room here, I know I need to move about 1/8 of an inch up. So I'm gonna just go ahead and do that. Okay. So yeah, we're raising up that edge, which is what I wanted. Now there still is there's a little pressure there from the springs. So, you know, if I was doing this a lot, I'd want to remove that pressure, but I don't think it'll be a problem because these are moving pretty freely and they're not really grabbing. It doesn't feel like it's grinding on anything, but just to be sure. So now I'm going to take my string action gauge because it's got some measuring tools on it. I just want to make sure that I'm even on both sides because I want this, I don't want it to be leaning on one side or the other. So if I just measure from this pick guard to the plate, let's do it this way. So I'm at 4 millimeters on about 4.5, 4, and 4 there. Yeah, 4 there. So they're about the same height. And yeah, I think I might go just a touch higher. Because again, I want to float this correctly. Yeah, okay. And that should about do it. Okay. So when we float the bridge, the nice thing, like I said, I don't have to adjust the springs because it was an 1/8 of an inch off the side here. So it should be floated nice and flat and even. So happy about that. So we'll check that a little bit later because now I want to do some of the other stuff while I have the strings off. And the next part I can do is now remove that pick guard plastic. So he has plastic here. We can just pull these parts off. I've got this tool here. This is a spanner wrench, but with air, like it's made so you can pop knobs off, which is nice. So I've got my volume here, tone, tone. So those knobs just come off nice and easy. And now I can remove this plastic. So all that plastic comes off. I'm gonna check this one too. The output jack is good and tight. Just want to make sure there's no play there. And so yeah, we are in business, folks. Okay, so didn't need that, but we got the plastic off now. Now it's looking fresh and nice. Go ahead and toss these old strings, but I'll leave them there for now. I'm sure the plastic's on the back of this pickguard too, but it's not like coming up. So I don't know, can leave it. It's not gonna cause a problem. But that is looking clean. It is looking nice. Yeah, I think we're in good shape. Okay. Remove pickguard plastic, done. So, the saddle screws. I don't know how much they're going to come up and how much they will poke out. So I'm going to have to restring it and then see about that. I think the bridge will be floated correctly. We'll wait, check the input jack. So not a whole lot left to do. Let's clean it. Let's just get the cleaning material. Now he's got stickers on here, so I'm not going to clean that because I don't want to peel the stickers off. But we can clean around it, and that should be just fine. So need to get, this is just the body cleaner, Dunlop 65, guitar cleaner and polish. So just give it a nice little spray, and this will be for the body. Just a little wipe down. Okay. All right, set that back there. use that one later. So now let's get this fretboard polished. So I did get the fretboard kind of dirty. And so because of that, I need to clean it up. So this is a nice little polish, put a little clean on there. The fretboard really isn't dirty, it's just actually what I made it dirty with. So there wasn't a whole lot to clean up there, which is nice. And so yeah, we're looking all right. Not bad. Not bad at all, and indeed we are good to go. All right, last thing. We're going to use some guitar oil, fretboard oil. This is my favorite stuff. One of my favorite parts of doing this. And actually, I can put these tuners and knobs back on, or the tuners, the tone volume. So we'll turn it all the way up to 10. Because we're at 10, 10 should face that way. Turn the knob all the way to 10, and 10 should face me. Yep. And again, these knobs are going on nice and easy. They are in good shape. So yeah, okay, so we're all dimed in. It's looking good. The oil, okay. Let's go here. That's looking nice and shiny. Okay, so while we're here, rag. This is good, nice. And it's not too much in, so it theoretically should move, right? You want it to expand and contract, so I'll help with that. So just roll on. This is really nice, it's really, really nice. You know, Indian laurel is kind of a pretty wood. I don't think it gets enough attention. It's not, like this particular, like the streaks running through it look really nice. I kind of like it. You know, some people really like a uniform look, but this has a lot of character. I think it looks really pretty, actually. Yeah, looking good. So we are in good shape. All right. So moving on. Well, now, oh yeah, I need to check these. Where was that? Is it this one? Yeah, there we go. Yep, and sure enough, none of these were really tightened. And I'm hand tightening it. Yeah, that one was loose. That one was loose. That one was loose. You don't want to over tighten these because you can't crack the headstock, but I mean, there's no danger if I'm doing it by hand, but yeah, these aren't going to come loose now. So there's still a little bit of play in the tuner, but much less than it would have normally. So just make sure those are nice and tight. You know, I'm just going to get the socket wrench, the small socket wrench, just to be sure. Just joking. Gonna get the big socket wrench because apparently that's what this one is fitting. Okay. So I don't want to tighten it too much, just a little bit more than hand tighten. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, those aren't going anywhere now. Okay. I think we are in good shape here. I'm trying to think if there's anything I'm missing before I like start putting stuff back together. No, everything else can be done afterward. Okay, so we are done with most of these tools. I will have to put relief back in the neck, and I will have to do that. I'll have to. So let me get rid of some of these tools. I like to move things off my workspace as I do it so it gets nice and clean. I guess we can put the new strings on. Let me grab those strings. Nine to 42 Fender branded strings. Okay. Oh, I see. They move them together. Okay, this is the 1st and the 4th string. Whoa, look at those ball ends. Never seen anything like it. They're little tubes. Okay, that's a trip. That was not what was in there. Bullet ball end, they're calling this. I've never seen anything like it. Wild. I guess that's neat. Okay, so we got the 1st and the 4th string. Winding strings. I'm gonna definitely fast forward this part. So I try to make sure I pull it taut so it ramps around the top of the tuner and not the bottom, because I want it to kind of wind underneath the tuner. So yeah, I'm like 3.5 winds into that string, which is about where I want to be. And it's going to wind quite a bit more. So then I wrap it around, bend that string a little bit, and then clip it. Make sure it's all the way up in the bridge, and then pull it back. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, bend that up. Good deal. All right, so now we're going to tune it to pitch and see where we're at with the... We're going to see where we're at with the relief, and then we're going to adjust it to 9. Well, we'll see. We'll see where we adjust it to. We'll see what feels good, plays good, kind of a deal here. Now, I did bring a pick over. Where did I set it? Ah, there we are. Yeah. So hopefully that should do it. I mean, I barely tapped it, and that should be about where we want it. Okay, let's see what that looks like. So we're right about where we started. So yeah, 9, 9.5. It's about perfect. So that is good. Now I just got to bring this bridge down, and we should be a-okay. And then I got to readjust all the saddles. So that's, yeah, that's a lot more work. I think I'm just gonna pause it here, and when I get the rest of it done, we'll move on, and I'll cut to the places where we need to be to kind of show you what's going on. So the next thing I'm gonna do is loosen and tighten the springs, and then do the saddles on the other side. And yeah, as soon as I get the bridge floated properly and the saddle height adjusted correctly, we'll see where we're at. All right. Okay, so we are back, and I've got the bridge floated properly, so I don't know if you can see that bridge, but it is now floating at 1/8 of an inch off the body. I'm lowering and adjusting this. Well, it actually looks like it's touching the body, but I'm adjusting the saddles to kind of fit it. So all I had to do was tune the guitar to pitch, loosen the strings a little bit, tighten the screws in the back, loosen the strings, tighten the screws, and just kind of go back and forth until they were in pitch, and then that was at the correct height. Now I'm just doing the saddles. So I'm trying to bring it to 4/64 across the board. And the posts are protruding off of the A string. So that might be the one that we change with smaller posts so they can kind of not shred your hand as you rest your hand on the bridge to play, if that's how you play. I like playing that way, and it's how I was taught to play, and it feels good. So I have a feeling the B string is going to follow suit because they are like kind of equally radiused across the fretboard. That's how those posts work. And so I'm using the string action gauge to kind of check at the 12th fret what they look like. I'm almost there. So I think I'm only going to have to change 4 saddles. And of course I will save the saddles and I will give them back to the owner of this guitar, and then he can decide what he wants to do with them. So, yeah, now we are 4/64 across the board, which is the standard spec for a Fender Strat. The A string's actually a little low. It doesn't matter. I'm going to change those saddles out anyway. So what I'm going to do, not the saddles, but I'm just doing the posts. So these little grub screws that sit in the saddle, they just need to be removed and have a shorter one put in, because that will make it sit more preferably on that saddle. So that is where we're at, and we will go from there. And when I get done with that, I will continue. So more to come. All right. Okay, everybody. Excuse me. So last thing to do is just lube the nut. So I've got this nut lube on the E string. So that is good. So I'm just giving these strings, I'm just popping them out and putting a little bit of lubricant in there. It's very easy to do, and that will help keep these strings from binding. So just put a little dab of the lube here, and then run it in the nut slot. You don't need a whole lot, just a touch. I think I got this one already. Whoop. That was way too much. So that will be, take some of this off. And this one, especially these ones that we super good. Get some of that B string here. All right. And we are done. Easy peasy. So we are good to go. So what I did, let's go through it all. Things that happened, things that didn't. Exciting part of doing this. Oh, no, we are not done. Still need to put this white lithium grease here. So I'm going to use the end of this this lubricant. So don't need a little, just a little bit, and this will go right here in the hole. A little bit more. Okay, now we're done. Okay. So what do we do? We tightened the tuners. We checked the nut slot height and fixed that. We adjusted some of those nut slots. We lubed the nut. We made sure there's no binding. We changed the strings. We went ahead and leveled a few frets, and we hammered the other ones in that had raised a little bit. We polished the frets, made sure they're nice and smooth so you can bend on them. We filed the fret ends with a fret file to make sure those rounded edges won't poke you in the hand, and then filed some of the tangs, and then we rounded the fretboard edge so it's a nice rounded feel. Removed the pick guard plastic there, and we changed one saddle screw. So the other saddle screw on the B string is a little high. These screws are a little high, but the problem is the next smaller size really isn't going to fit. It'll fit okay in there, but I worry if it needs to come up or if anything gets adjusted for any reason, they might not be able to move far enough up or down. Well, they can move down, they just can't move up. I left his old saddles in a plastic bag in his gig bag, so he has those. And then, yeah, we're looking good. I floated the bridge, so the bridge is, well, now that I see it, it needs to be loosened. So, well, I got to tune it to pitch and then see, but I think it might need to be loosened a little bit. And then we put some grease in the lithium grease in the trim slot. So when he puts that trim in, it's going to keep it from binding or heating up or malforming, etc. So quite a bit of work done, but it is looking good. Took about 2.5, 3 hours, and yeah, we are good to go. Put this video up, and it was a lot of work, but now this guitar's in much better playing condition, and I think he'll be very, very happy. All right, guys, have a good one, and we'll see you later.